Chapter 11.
Well, this was a good idea.
Ash rolled her eyes, choosing not to dignify Balthier's comment with a response. They stood in the Stral's cockpit looking out to the wide expanse of barren yellow before them, the Dalmascan Sand Sea. It laid past the Ester Sands, where only a few watering holes provided life, and stretched on for miles and miles, eventually reaching the ocean. During the winter months it grew even larger, but for now the tides ran high, covering the edges of the Sand Sea with about 3 feet of water for quite some distance before dropping off at the underwater valley that marked the Rosarian border. This was the only contact with any significant body of water that Dalmasca claimed as its own, and the jungles of Rosaria could be seen plainly from the shore. However, the Stral did not idle anywhere near the water. Indeed, Ashalia had bid Balthier stop at nearly the exact middle of the desert, where they had come upon a massive funnel of sand held aloft by whirling winds. Though she had assured him it would be safe, he refused to land the ship any closer, and now debated landing it at all, for he feared she may go off and die amid the scorching sands and searing winds, and then, as he loudly complained, he'd never get paid. The two had engaged in a heated debate that none of the others dared interrupt, but luckily, before things turned violent, an Atomos appeared on the horizon, rendering the entire group silent with fear. Before approaching, however, the tiny craft hailed the Stral, offering a line of communication, which the princess took while Balthier and Fran readied the guns. But their preparations proved unneeded, for Azelaz's voice soon sounded through the comm link.
Honestly, Princess, can't I leave you alone for 10 minutes? Your replacement didn't complain, she replied. I thought him above consorting with sky pirates. It was Her Majesty's decision,
Bosch defended.
I had little choice in the matter. I'm sorry we didn't wait for you, Azelaz,
said Ashalia,
but I could not stand to be useless.
He sighed, slowly bringing the Arcadian craft nearer to the Stral.
Couldn't you have at least sought out more appropriate transportation?
He asked.
Balthier and Fran are worthy of our trust,
she answered matter-of-factly.
Whoa,
said Balthier.
Now there's something I never thought I'd hear. He thinks ever and always on his own profit,
the princess went on.
Assure him of it and he shall remain true to our cause. Much better,
Balthier added.
I do not share your Majesty's faith,
said Azelaz.
Well, I have to put up with Bosch,
she contended.
So you're going to put up with my pirates?
Bosch and Azelaz both let out groans, and Fran and Balthier turned to Ash and spoke in unison,
Your pirates?
Vaughn and Penelo snickered.
We're stopping here,
Ash said definitively with a glare toward Balthier.
I'll meet you on the ground.
He conceded, and Balthier at last docked the Stral, though not without giving the princess a grudging lecture on how ridiculous this whole journey had become. The kids were happy for some fresh air, Vaughn leaping out into the sand with a thud and Penelo following giddily with avian delicacy, but the others remained on guard, painfully aware that they hadn't enough water to last more than 2 or 3 days in the weather and that even if they had, with the Empire in search of them, lingering anywhere for too long a time could prove fatal. Azelaz, thankfully, had another day's worth of water for the entire group, and carried over his shit a mysterious bag of coarse fiber and indiscernible shape, which he offered to Ashalia upon meeting amid the sand dunes.
For you.
She cocked her head curiously.
What? Consider it an early birthday gift,
he explained. She hesitantly took the sack from him and peered inside, then let out a sigh of relief.
Ah, God bless you!
She fell to the ground and kicked off her dainty shoes, then pulled out of the bag a pair of combat boots to replace them.
The Marquis sympathizes with your plight,
Azelas went on,
yet the Empire watches his every move. He can keep whispers of your abduction silent for only so long, and the Empire plans to pass off a lady of their own ranks as you by means of the Dusk Shard and the blood they took on the Leviathan. The only way we will gain any ground is by proving to the people that you are the true queen. One step ahead of you,
said Ashalia.
The Midlight Shard is in Rythwal's tomb, and I have a healthier blood supply than Geese. And the tomb is all the way out here?
Azelas asked.
Talk about out of the way,
Vaughn added.
It could be worse,
the princess snapped. And then, turning back to Azelas,
do you have a plan for after we get the Midlight Shard? Several,
he said with an uncertain nod.
To be honest, Highness, all strategies at this point are dependent on our ability to prove your heritage. I see.
She stood, having finished lacing her boots up, and tore off the last few inches of her hem, shortening the skirt so that it hovered near her knees, rather than at her ankles.
Well, we must be quick. It's bad enough that I should be revealed so soon, who's to say what will happen if they reveal two of me? My thoughts exactly,
said Azelas.
But you couldn't have been discovered at a better time, another bodyguard shows up just as you need him. Indeed,
she replied.
Vaughn. Step it up. You're a terrible babysitter.
She started off into the sand with Vaughn and Penelo close at her sides and Fran and Bolthier a few paces from her heels. Azelas turned to Bosch.
Still.
Bosch rolled his eyes.
I'm working on it.
They followed after the princess, who appeared to be in slightly higher spirits than she had been of late, not only because of the favorable turn of events aboard the Leviathan, but because she now stood in her own territory, the great deserts of Dalmasca, her home. Her shimmery almond-hued hair appeared paler in the desert sun, and the bland surroundings provided sufficient contrast to bring out the powdery blue of her eyes. Though her demeanor improved little during the trek, she would on occasion allow Azelas a sly feline-esque smirk, a show of calm amusement with his attempts at getting her to brighten up in light of the recent events, and Vaughn and Penelo found it fascinating, for they had only ever known their princess as the regal, tragic lady who symbolized the misfortune and heartbreak that had befallen their home. Even Fran and Bolthier looked on her with subtle hope. It was as though this new strong princess had at once destroyed and replaced the former weakened one, as if she embodied the fighting spirit of the Dalmasca of old. Ashalia led them forward to the edge of the sandstorm, trudging a bit haphazardly in her dress. All had been wary as they neared the funnel of the storm, but soon noticed that the wind did not stir about them, and in fact appeared to remain quite calm in spite of the whirling sand and dust.
Don't worry,
she assured them as she approached the dim cloud.
It's not real. Not real?
Asked Vaughn.
I don't know how,
said the princess.
But I suppose that doesn't matter.
She slowly reached her arm out into the storm, feeling it to be harmless, nothing more than a passing breeze.
A mist illusion,
said Fran.
I did not know humans could work such things. Maybe they can't,
said Bolthier.
Her Highness certainly seems to have that old-fashioned Vieira spunk. Funny,
Ash sneered, stepping through the illusion. The other followed cautiously, learning to their great relief that the wall of sand was mere inches thick and almost entirely without sensation. Within the funnel of the illusion stood a grand stone temple, weathered with time but still as enthralling a sight as it had been upon its construction. Ornate carvings adorned every block of every surface, and tall, gleaming columns marked the entryway, which was itself ornamented with countless gems and metalwork. A tall staircase led to the front, and though the sun glared down on the tomb, the mist illusion prevented the casting of any shadow.
"Whoa!"
Vaughn said dumbly, stepping forward with reverent awe.
"That's the Dynast King's tomb?"
Penelo asked in wonder.
"It's bigger than I thought,"
Ashalia replied with a nod. Balthier shrugged.
"It's not so great. I take it we'll have to be going in,"
Azelas said with clear concern.
"The midlight shard is deep inside,"
Ash explained.
"It might take a day or two, but it should be safe." "You know the way?"
Balthier asked. She hesitated.
"Well... no. No."
He pressed, raising an eyebrow.
"It's just stories handed down in my family,"
she said curtly.
"All I know is the tomb is in the storm and the stone is in the tomb. And you're basing the future of your entire country on this." "Balthier,"
Vaughn warned.
"Wait here,"
the princess growled.
"I'll go unlock it."
As she ascended the steps leading up to the massive stone doors, Balthier folded his arms critically.
"She's going to get us all killed,"
he said.
"She's overconfident,"
Azelas defended,
"but she won't make any hasty decisions."
Ashalia began prying loose the jewels that adorned the entryway and rearranging them, though the spectators could not clearly see the pattern in this.
"You know,"
Balthier went on,
"that whole saving your asses from geese thing was a one-time deal. We can handle him,"
Vaughn replied.
"Sure you can,"
the pirate scoffed.
"We were all damn lucky last time. He's smart and influential, and he's a certified hardass to boot. He'll chew you up and spit you out. You think the princess can't handle that?"
asked Vaughn.
"I think she can't admit that she can't,"
replied Balthier.
"Come on, guys,"
Penelo scolded.
"Be nice." "Where's the fun in that?"
Balthier asked.
"Unfortunately," said Bosch, "he's got a point. Her Majesty cannot abide weakness, least of all in herself. Which is probably why she makes for such a great soldier,"
Azelas added. Ashalia summoned them forth with a sharp whistle, the doors before her creaking open and expelling clouds of dust from their edges.
"At any rate,"
Azelas went on, starting up the steps,
"we're nothing without her.